Hello and welcome to Dojo Live this Thursday, May 16th, 2024 for the third episode of our The Hospitality Advantage Real Stories of AI in Action series. My name is Kim Lantis. I'll be kind of moderating this conversation today with none other than David Chestler, President of Provision Partners. Hello, David.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, and joined again with Martin Chevalley, CEO and co-founder of InnSpire. Good to see you both.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Yes, we're really excited. You know, Martin, you first joined us here on the show speaking about your experience in implementing real-world AI solutions in the hospitality industry, how that's transforming the hotel experience, and more specifically, fostering a more cohesive, I think, operational environment. We're going to be deep diving more into that conversation with today's show, and which is, you know, really all about this convergence and how AI is helping to converge both the front of house and the back of house for hotels. But before we do that deep dive, I would like to kind of reintroduce you to our audience. If you could please just provide us a bit more of your background, your experience, and of course, the passion for the hospitality industry.
Sure, happy to. So my name is Martin Chevalley, CEO, co-founder of InnSpire. We've been running InnSpire now for 10 years, actually. Time flies. And always been very focused on the guest experience, really, in the hospitality landscape, and using technology to make that more seamless, more frictionless. And over the times, this has changed what that means. We started with a TV system. That was the big screen in the room to do, you know, interaction on, and to work with the guest and to give them options to order food and beverage and watch movies and all these things. And then the app came along, and that made things easier and more seamless. You still have the TV, but maybe more as a passive piece where you watch a movie, and what you bring with you is your phone. And now I think we all need to reinvent ourselves again, because AI is just making this enormous shift in how we can make things easier, more frictionless, more automated, and quicker, faster, better in every single way. And I think as time progresses, there'll be less buttons and more automation, basically, all over the place that we interact with. So we're extremely excited to be in the midst of this kind of ongoing evolution, and also very excited to work with great clients who are willing to take a bet and, you know, run with us and see where this can take us.
Absolutely. I love it. You know, David, is there anything like you'd like to add? I know that you and Martin go way back. What are you excited about for today's conversation?
Way back in internet terms, right? The idea that, you know, Martin is bringing forward with his company, and the thing that we've touched on all along in this series, is how achievable the integration of the technology AI can be into the business. Understanding the business first, and then utilizing the technology to enhance, whether it's the machine learning or the humble starts from IPTV, and how it's evolved in facing the customer. And it's that interesting intersection, you use the word perfectly, convergence, right? Where the customer and the operation are coming together. And it's how do you help that happen, make it less friction filled and affordable, achievable for businesses. And that's what I think is exciting. That, you know, the large players, the Amazons, the Microsofts, they're the ones that are making the deep investments in the core technology. But it's entrepreneurs and scholars like Martin and his team, you know, that are really taking it to the market. I don't want to say democratizing it yet, because it's still not all the way down at the grassroots level. But they're bringing it into the marketplace in segments and in brands and in large enterprises like the Virgins and the Hiltons and others that really help the customer and the operation engage. And that's the convergence that we think is really exciting, because it's, you know, AI is another technology. Although the generative part is very exciting, I think there's a lot that we can glean from what Martin's been experimenting and working with over the 10 years. And that's the part that I'm excited about, because he really is bringing something nuanced and special to the market, and the market is embracing it. And that's what's exciting.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think it's exciting too. We're always focusing, and always it is hospitality, on this guest experience. But now this convergence of how these technologies are also helping the employee experience, which in turn then increases the guest experience, for me is absolutely exciting as well. So just to kind of set up the conversation we're going to have today for our audience, more or less, we're going to be breaking this into 3 parts. First, focusing on the front of house operation, the guest facing operation, current kind of examples of AI use, and maybe what we see coming in the pipeline as well, followed by that back of house operation technologies there. And then that great word we're talking about, the convergence of those, and why that convergence is so important and increasingly more so. So let's kind of kick this off, Martin, and of course, David as well, in your experience. What's happening in terms of how AI technology is transforming things like the guest check-in experience and other elements of front of house? Like, what are these innovative solutions out there?
Can I start? All right, perfect. There's so much going on. I think there's an enormous shift going on in the industry, and it's not just us. I mean, everyone is experimenting and testing. And as you mentioned, David, we're lucky to have these very big, powerful companies like Microsoft and OpenAI, and others that are actually driving this change, because we can leverage from that, and we can get very powerful tools that we wouldn't be able to develop or afford to use if it wasn't as openly available as it is today. So I think that is fantastic and helping to drive this change. And many different companies, including us, are experimenting with what that can mean. And your question, Kim, what's happening in terms of the guest experience? I think what we are seeing is that we're able to automate a lot of the tedious tasks that really aren't much of a value add. Having an agent or a host stand behind a desk and type in your name and look at your passport and all these things is not really exciting for everyone, for anyone, and it's not really driving anybody's bottom line or doing anything good. So if we can take those things away and automate that, so that we can put people further ahead and greet the guest and meet the guest and understand their needs and preferences much better, then I think we can really leverage everything that we're doing and create a better experience. So what's going on is that check-in is becoming more seamless. Preferences is already part of the system, so that we'll know intolerances or styles of music that you like, or whatever it might be that you're coming to New York to do, for example. So that's all becoming automated. Preferences in terms of temperature in the room, power savings in the room if they're not there. So it's really touching upon really the entire experience, I think.
I love it. What are you seeing, David? Anything to add to that list?
Well, again, I keep going back to, there are 2 directions, right? There's the outward facing customer, and there's the inward facing operation. And it's where it's being touched. We're seeing it on the web sphere, where they are doing more in recognizing and credentialing and personalizing some of the messaging. A lot of that is early days with IP recognition and similar, so that they're able to do better retargeting using a lot of the machine learning and large programs that are out there. The operation optimization, analyzing vast amounts of data and looking for anomalies and determining where there are features, benefits, pricing opportunities, etc. That's optimizing the internal operation, but for the customer, giving them a better rate room combination or package offering or similar, right? Those areas are really converging. The CRM and its integration into the system ecosystem is being impacted a lot. And I think even the idea of trip planning, there are a few companies that are experimenting in what that looks like when you start to put the generative AI piece. I don't know how many have tried to use AI and ChatGPT to plan a trip. Just entering something that you might want to go to a city and see things. The existing infrastructure of the platform allows you to then see a nice planned itinerary, and you give it constraints and plots that can be used. We're seeing it used in service and support. Conversational AI is really embedded into the call centers and similar. How do I prioritize and get someone to the right place and the right agent at the right part of the funnel without upsetting them too much, right? All those areas are being tested, code and recode and reparative links and things of that nature are being applied. So we're seeing that. It's how are the end users buying into it? How are they justifying at their levels that I need to invest? And back to that democratization, companies like Martin's are bringing it to the marketplace and making it achievable and acquirable. So now it's how does it impact the business? And that's where we're seeing, are we getting rid of the front desk, or are we just changing the way we're engaging with that desk and giving people the choice? Those that are travel aggressive might use their phones to check in and have their drink ordered, or their preferred temperature settings, as Martin alludes to. That's the area that I think we're watching and trying to see how it's overlaying on the operation and then across the portfolio.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are there any standout examples? I mean, we've mentioned the ability to order food from your television first and now from your mobile or things, but what are some of these standout examples of you're seeing and maybe some of the ROI or impact that they've kind of had on businesses that have applied them?
Yeah, so our approach as we've been doing is because we work very closely with the hospitality partners that we work with, and we've always had to approach an idea to have fewer partners but be able to engage very actively with them. And our approach has been to look at the entire guest journey from you're still at home, you're still researching, as a traveler, you didn't even travel yet. You still have a few questions. Where can I eat? How do we get there? How do I get to the airport? Then you book, then you get your reservation, then you get your confirmation, then you travel. So we look at every single step. And in order to make that seamless, then we have to look at every single integration there is, every single kind of technology that's already existing within the hotels that is enabling each of those steps. And then back to the words of convergence, because I think that's perfect here, we make all of that seamless. So looking at that entire guest journey, everything that the guest is doing, they should be able to choose how they want to interact with the hotel. Some people will not use technology, they'll just show up, while others, as you mentioned, David, will use the app, they'll check in even before they leave. They already have the key in the phone by the time that they arrive to the hotel, while others prefer to chat. So there's an idea that we've had that we want to meet the guests where they are. And I think we're all been a little bit guilty, especially us technology companies, of trying to kind of force people into the technology that we have. If we have a TV system, we'll say, order through the TV. That's how you order food. Or when we had an app, we'll say, use the app. That's the best way. But now that's changing. Everything is seamless and everything gets the same result. It's just the different channels on how you approach that. And speaking of the ROI and what you spoke about, for example, guest chat, which has become a huge thing, I think mostly lately because it can be done so well and it can take so much off the front desk and really move people forward. We've converged all these different channels: WhatsApp, SMS, Messenger, email, and web. So basically any channel that you as a guest choose to use will provide the same responses to as you're traveling. So if you're a WhatsApp person, then keep using WhatsApp. If you're a Messenger, then you'll use that, but whatever channel you prefer, but it's the same engine. And as a front desk operator, all these questions are coming in from the different guests from the different channels. And if they choose to shift channels, it understands that and it starts using the other channels, which is pretty amazing. So it's completely seamless. And now I'm going to get to the point of this whole thing, is that we're currently answering 89% of all the questions in these hotels. So 89% are fully being answered without any human interaction. And where the convergence really comes in is when it ties to the back end. So it ties back to the task management system and to the review system. So if somebody's asking for a pillow or a late checkout, or it will create a task and it will assign it to housekeeping. If somebody's asking for a late checkout, we'll check if there's a room available in that category and offer a price. Sometimes it's a static price, but it's also becoming more dynamic. So yeah, the ROI is huge. It's fairly easy to go live with, actually, nowadays, compared to some of the earlier tools when we were doing IPTV on set-top boxes. We had to install the set box into every single room and had to have great Ethernet and all these things. Now it's really a layer of software on top of everything else, which is fantastic and it becomes very cost efficient for the hotel.
And it's one channel for the user of this. I mean, the front desk operator or the housekeeper, like they're not having to flip through a variety of places. For them, it's also seamless.
Yeah, I think it's the job of us technology providers to work together and create that seamlessness, not just for the guest, but for the hotelier, the GM, the CIO, the CTO. They can't stay on top of every single technology and keep shifting back and forth between 55 dashboards because everyone wants their own dashboard. It's our job to make it work. So I think they should just come to us and say, we have this PMS, this POS, this ticketing system, this, and then leave it to us and our partners to make that work.
And that's the point I wanted to jump on, Kim, really quick. And I think it's that convergence where you're trying to take care of the customer so the customer has a great experience. The operation is not overloaded, especially at the front desk where they're trying to greet and meet and support the guests as they come. They're not being pulled away to answer a phone and a query that can be 89% of the calls resolved in first call, right? And that, again, creates a good experience for the guest. All of that data for the management team to now be able to analyze all of this information and understand where there might be gaps or drops, if you will, of customer satisfaction, a complaint on reviews. A lot of that you'll now be able to analyze and understand and be actionable for the operator, which then again makes it something that solves a problem before it actually exists. And that's a better guest experience. So you see that closed loop of service and support that technology enables, and a well-heeled operation can really manage much more efficiently. Sorry, that was the point I wanted to jump in on.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I think,
yeah,
it's all driven by data. And I heard somebody say that data is the fuel that drives this AI revolution, which is so true. Because if there isn't data that we can pull from, then we can't provide various things because we're really pulling a lot of data together and providing an answer. So the more data we can pull from CRM systems and preferences, whether we're pulling in events, what's going on in New York while you're there. So basically you could, if you booked a hotel in New York, you could be getting an email saying, welcome to so-and-so hotel in May. While you're here, the weather is going to be this and this. There's a concert going on there and there. Would you like us to help book a ticket? And you're traveling through JFK. So here's the instructions on how to get to the hotel without a human touching it. And there's more coming, but that's just the start.
And it's interesting that you mentioned this 89%. I'm going to call it 90. No, but I was actually having a conversation earlier this week, and we were talking about the use of a generative AI for whatever we might want to be using that with, whether it's creative writing or things, and that seemed to be that magic number as well. Like this 90% of the job, the hard work or whatever, the getting you started, can be done for you, and then there's that 10% that's irreplaceable, this finesse, this human interaction, and like that's where the magic is happening, real magic. I think in that final 10%. We mentioned things like housekeeping and maybe maintenance. What are these ways in which we're seeing AI and technology impact the back of the house?
So that's again where a similar type of platform could always be flipped to see the backside of it, because it's really the same tools, but at the heart of it, we're either providing or integrating to a task management system, because more or less everything becomes something that needs to be done for the guests in order to enhance their experience. And the important thing is that it doesn't fall between the cracks, which I think happens, unfortunately, too much. But the way that we've built that is that the AI understands anything that's being said in these conversations, whether it's a restaurant booking or whether it's a request for a towel or it's a dripping faucet. All those things are automatically becoming tasks and automatically being assigned to housekeeping or whatever it needs to be assigned to. So what's happening at the back of house is that, first of all, most of these AI questions are being, or guest questions are being answered in real time. So that's helping a lot. Second of all, the guesswork of finding out what to do or when to do it is kind of also disappearing, because it's very clear what needs to be done based on these tasks. And also when there's shift changes or people leave or people come, that remains. So that's really important. And then it's also become an internal communication platform for within the hotel. We've seen many examples around the world, and there's different cultures in different, whether it's Middle East or Asia, how things are done. But generally speaking, people tend to pick up their phone and start texting each other or WhatsApping each other, or some people use email, and then somebody left the job or somebody came back and somebody was sick. So things just completely fall between the cracks because these channels aren't monitored or professional in that sense. So it's also an internal communication platform where you can tag each other, you create groups. So it's almost like a Slack married Facebook, because you can put pictures and you can tag each other, and the GM could have a stand-up call to all the 700 employees of the entire staff at the same time, saying, hey, great work, this is happening today, these VIP guests are coming, and look at this amazing reception that the F&B team created, and by the way, here's a review that was very positive, here's a review that we need to work on. So all this data is now becoming available at your fingertips, but also communication wise, it can be used to help the hotel, and it becomes actionable in that sense.
Yep. Collaboration is optimum. And that's really what you're starting to see, the technology layer helping the humans, right? Where they're able to access data, make data-driven decisions. There is the ability to integrate, which is critical in our industry. There have been too many issues with properties and owned by banks, not owned by large brands, having to understand the rationale between what the expenses and PIP, the improvements required of these brands to maintain a standard, and why they're doing it. There's that breakdown. And I think what we're trying to understand is how the transformation of the technology is going to support the demands of the operation and the customer. Because a lot of the things we're seeing, customers can have access to at their own homes. Yeah. So how does the hospitality business normalize that and rationalize that expense, not once, but over time? This is not a one and done scenario. This is a constant investment. The same way security is a constant investment. And that's what I think is so important in how you select your partners and how you train and organize your teams to be able to embrace this type of transformation and not just benefit from it, but monetize it in a way that is not uncomfortable for the guest to feel that they're being attacked with coupons or emails and texts about opportunities for upgrades and upsells. I think it really is, how do we do this in such a way that makes it a pleasurable experience and adds to what I'm trying to do? It becomes additive versus being just putting it in, as we called it, AI washing, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. It needs to be non-intrusive. It has to be there when you need it, but it cannot be in your face, because people are just going to be really fed up with that if it's too much poking at your attention the whole time. At the end of the day, you want to enjoy the hotel experience. That's why you're there. These things are just there to help.
Right. And I think on the opposite side of that same coin, when we're talking about the employee experience, the same thing stands, right? It needs to be something that you lean on and that's guiding you, but is also not intrusive or a distraction from the job at hand that you're trying to accomplish. And I'm also curious what this looks like in terms of just satisfaction for the individuals. I know that on a previous show, David, you had mentioned an alarming statistic in terms of the concern and labor shortage, I think, being one of them. Is this helping also? Are you seeing this in terms of just better prepared staff, happier staff? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think you can definitely focus on the most important tasks. I think that was what it really comes down to: having the right information at the right time, removing some of the tedious tasks so that you can put people in front of the desk rather than behind the desk. But then there's a third component as well, which is review management, which we're also tying into this whole thing. So it's becoming more or less of almost a too big word, but it makes sense, an operating system for hotels. It's a platform where all the information flows and it ties it all together. And reviews, at the end of the day, it's really what's the expression? Proof in the pudding, something like that.
Proof in the pudding. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, that's where the honest reviews are going to come from the hotel guests. So we work very closely with that too, and we also use AI to actually prepare drafted personalized responses for every single review in every single language. So that saves a lot of time. Again, tedious tasks, so you can focus on solving those tasks. But you can't leave it at that. You can't just say, "Oh, cool, we answered 100% of the reviews." What's in those reviews is what really matters. That's where guests are telling you what you need to do better and what you need to change. So when it becomes really exciting is when you can put AI on the AI, when you're taking all these tasks and all these things that are going on, which is, an overload of information that us humans really can't handle, but AI can. So the tool can draw conclusions from all the data that's being created. So that's another layer of how extremely efficient this becomes.
Data science, that's coming into the hospitality industry more than ever, right? And it's, from the operator's perspective, Martin's company is one choice in a myriad of technologies. I have to select a property management system. I have to select a customer relationship management software, emailing software for engagement. I have to do a revenue management system. Some properties have upwards of 40 and some 70 plus systems that they have to work with and interoperate so that my call PBX is aligned with my rooms, is aligned with the thermostats, the things that operate the property, the facility itself, and getting the customer, the facility, and the colleague, all three layers, working interoperably, integrated, so that data is being shared and normalized, and preferences are recorded, and folio data is incorporated. This is a long journey, and we're really just right at the beginning of that. And that's why, again, shows like this, being able to talk to founder entrepreneurs and also the customer base and the brilliant architects of Ancora, we really do get a full understanding of what this ecosystem's about. And it really does take a lot of people collaborating to make it work.
Yeah, and I think like the advice and the consultation of activities like we've talked about, that design-led thinking to help choose the use case, right? To avoid the AI washing and make a difference in this place. Let's get really great at this review, this place that's going to make the most impact, right? And go from there. I think it's also interesting when we're talking about this, you mentioned this word earlier, David, the democratization, what this means in terms of, again, the use case or the priorities and strategies of different hotels. What does this look like? Maybe, I think this might be our final question today, but for more budget-friendly type, mom pop, or even where their guests themselves, are looking for a more economical experience versus, the higher end luxury. How do we choose, what's important to us, whether that's enhancing the guest stay or cost saving goals? Everybody can benefit from this?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think there will be an evolution. In the early days of anything, it costs more. There's supply and demand. There's less of it to go around, and the ones that are early adopters are always going to probably help lead the investment for everyone. And then things become more generic, and it becomes mainstream. But the evolution, as you mentioned, David, is continuous, and it will never stop. I think it will continue to increase in velocity rather than the opposite. So I'm sure that in a few years' time, this experience will be just as seamless at a budget hotel as it is as a luxury hotel. And actually, the luxury in a few years will be to speak to a person. The luxury will be that it's a human being that comes with your drink that you've ordered and that answers your questions and knows where to go. So I think it's probably going to come full circle in that sense that, when it's so efficient, then the opposite becomes attractive.
We could start talking about holograms really soon.
That magic 10%. It reminds me of what I think I've said this before on the show, where it used to be that, 100 or whatever years ago, that the rich people had cars and the poor people had horses. And now it's the rich people who have horses and everybody has a car. It's somewhat what I'm hearing here today. But, this has been an absolute fantastic conversation in terms of seeing, the AI in action, real use, real scenarios to help, you know, the guest experience on the front end, the operation on the back end, what that means when it comes together, and the magic, of course, that can happen. You know, Martin, if somebody wants to reach out to you more directly to find out more information, how might they go ahead and do that?
Well, probably the best way is through our website, inspire.com, or my name, martin.chevalley@inspire.com. And our entire team is, you know, ready to engage and to discuss. And we love these things. And it really becomes, these discussions is almost like a meeting with a CIO, CTO these days, because these discussions are going on in every single hotel group. So it's extremely exciting, and it becomes more of a workshop than anything else. So we're always learning from every conversation that we're in. So it's super exciting.
Thank you, Mitch. And the word workshop was great as well, because it fits right into your alley as well. David, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, how might they do that?
Our website, they could get me at dchestler@provisionpartners.com. And we're always there to even just have a conversation, to try and take the scary out of the business. That's what we're here for. So thank you all. We really appreciate it.
Yes, no, thank you. And of course, please join us for our 4th episode of this series coming up on May 30th. David will be joining me, as well as Manuel Cubillo Arias, who is Encora's Global VP of Cloud Services. So we'll see how cloud is impacting the industry as well. So until then, stay safe, everyone, and bye for now.
Thank you so much.